Welcome back to my channel, my amazing friends. I'm Huivo. And today, we're going to sit down together and have a real, heart-to-heart conversation about something I believe we all care about deeply: how to truly become prosperous. You know, over years of working with thousands of people across America, I've seen so many stories of effort and a deep desire to change their lives. But just as often, I've seen these invisible traps that held them back. Traps that, at first glance, we don't even recognize. We just think that's how it is, or that's fate. Let's ask ourselves a really honest question: are you rich yet? Or at least, are you on a path where you feel truly prosperous, not just financially, but mentally, and with a sense of freedom? Maybe a lot of us would think, rich? That's just luck, or being born into money, or needing some extraordinary talent. I get that feeling, because I used to think the same way. But in reality, from my experience, true wealth rarely comes from pure luck. It comes from conscious choices, and more importantly, from avoiding the pitfalls that most people fall into. Today, we're going to break down the 9 most common traps that are holding millions of people back from building real prosperity. Listen closely, think about them, and most importantly, let's figure out how to get out of them together. Trap number 1: ignoring personal growth. My friends, this is one of the most heartbreaking things I witness. So many people work their tails off, sweat and toil every single day, but their financial results just stay stuck. Maybe you're nodding your head right now, huh? Do you feel like you're constantly running in circles without really moving forward? What's the core issue here? It's a simple but incredibly profound philosophy: your income rarely exceeds your personal development. Sounds abstract, right? But think about it. If your knowledge isn't expanding, your skills aren't being sharpened, and your mindset is still stuck in the old ways, how can you possibly create greater value? This world is constantly moving, constantly changing, and if you stand still, you'll be left behind, not just in your job but in how you earn and manage your money. I once had a friend, a super hard worker, who was juggling 2 jobs from early morning till late at night. He always complained about not having enough money, about the pile of bills. I asked him, "What do you do on weekends?" He said, "I'm too tired. I just want to lie down, watch TV, scroll on my phone. Who has time to think about learning anything?" That's the trap. He was investing all his physical energy into work but neglecting to invest in his most valuable asset: his brain and his capabilities. Do you know what the most successful people in America, from tech billionaires to small business owners, all have in common? It's an unwavering commitment to continuous learning and self-improvement. They read books, they take courses, they seek mentors, they spend time reflecting and applying new knowledge. They never stop upgrading themselves. I remember a story about a woman named Sarah. She was a regular office worker, earning just enough to get by. She dreamed of a more comfortable life but didn't know where to start. Instead of complaining, Sarah decided to spend 30 minutes every day reading books on personal finance and new skills. She learned how to use new software, she learned about basic investing. At first, nothing seemed to change. But after just 2 years, Sarah was confident enough to apply for a higher position with double her salary, because she had skills others didn't. And more than that, her mindset about money completely transformed. So, what about you? Are you thinking negatively, that you're too busy to learn, or that you're too old to start something new? Get rid of those thoughts. Personal growth doesn't have to be expensive courses or a second college degree. It can be as simple as spending 15 to 30 minutes every day reading a good book, listening to a business or personal development podcast while driving, learning a new skill online, or simply taking time to reflect on what you've done and learned. When you commit to continuous learning, you'll find yourself sharper in financial decisions, more resilient when facing challenges, and most importantly, you'll see opportunities you never imagined before. This isn't just empty talk, it's something I've witnessed over and over again. Remember, your most valuable asset isn't the house you live in or the car you drive. It's your own ability to learn, adapt, and grow. Don't ignore it, don't let it sleep. Nurture it every single day. Now let's explore the second trap, one that so many people in America, and around the world, are falling into without even realizing it, until it hits them hard and causes heavy losses. That is trap number 2, putting all your eggs in one basket, relying on a single income source. Can you imagine? Our lives are like a big feast, and you only have one dish to eat. Sounds fine until that dish is gone. In the financial world, that dish is your income, and that basket is where you put all your financial trust. What's the problem here? It's very simple, but incredibly devastating. When you only have one source of income, you're placing your entire financial security in an extremely fragile position. Let's be honest with ourselves. Are you only relying on one full-time job, one fixed monthly salary? Do you think, as long as I have a job, everything's fine? I used to think that way. Many of us grew up believing that a stable job was the key. And that was true, for a bygone era. Today, the world has changed. Technology is changing everything at lightning speed. Companies can lay off thousands of employees overnight. The industry you're in could be killed off by a new invention. Have you seen the economic crises, the mass layoffs happening everywhere? I've seen many people, good friends, people who worked hard their whole lives, suddenly lose everything just because their company closed down, or their position was no longer needed. At that moment, their entire financial world collapsed because they had nothing else to rely on. Think about a situation that has probably happened to you, or someone you know. You wake up one morning, you get a call from your boss, or an email notifying you that you're no longer part of the company. How does that feel? Is it a huge shock? Rent, bills, kids' tuition, they're all still there, but the money to pay for them isn't. I remember one time, I was advising a client named David. David was a very skilled engineer. He'd worked for a large company for over 15 years. He was confident that his job was rock solid. He had a nice house, a luxury car, and a decent amount of savings. But he never thought about creating additional income streams. Then one day, the company restructured, and David was on the layoff list. He completely collapsed. He had savings, but that money was dwindling, not growing. He felt lost because his whole life he'd only known how to do one thing. So what's the solution here, for you and me? It's a philosophy that wealthy people, truly prosperous people, have adopted for a long time. They never rely on a single salary. They create multiple, diversified income streams. Imagine a river. If you only have one small stream, once it dries up, you'll be parched. But if that river has many branches, many different streams flowing into it, then even if one branch dries up, the others will continue to flow, keeping the river abundant. Money is the same way. This isn't about quitting your current job immediately. This is about strategically starting to build new streams. It could be a small side hustle. What skills do you have that others need? Freelance writing, design, tutoring, making crafts, or even delivering food on weekends. Investing. Learn about the stock market, real estate, or mutual funds. You don't need millions of dollars to start. Start with the smallest amounts. Even putting money into a high-yield savings account is a start. Creating passive income assets. This is the holy grail of wealth. It could be writing an e-book, creating an online course, investing in rental properties, or building a YouTube channel that earns ad revenue. These things generate income even while you're sleeping. I've seen many people start with a small idea, a tiny stream, and over time, it grew into a mighty river. A nurse I know started blogging about health in the evenings. After a few years, that blog had enough traffic for her to earn money from ads and selling related products. Eventually, the income from her blog was more than her salary at the hospital. Do you see the magic here? Income diversification not only provides financial security, but also brings flexibility and freedom. It allows you to have choices, not to live in fear when facing unexpected life changes. So, the question for you right now is, are you relying on just one source of income? If so, don't worry. The important thing is that you've realized it. Now is the time to start planting the first seeds for new income streams. Start small, start today. Create many streams, flowing into your financial River. Okay, we've talked about investing in yourself and diversifying your income. Now let's tackle a really sneaky trap, one that modern society sells us every day, and a lot of people fall right into it. Trap number 3: living beyond your means. Do you see it? Every time you open your phone, turn on the TV, or scroll through social media, you're bombarded with glossy images of success, a shiny new car, a luxurious vacation, a stunning house, or designer clothes. And a little voice in your head whispers, "You deserve those things too. Go on, buy them, show off." What's the problem here? It's that invisible but incredibly powerful pressure from society, from those around us, and sometimes from ourselves, forcing us to own everything right away. We spend more than we earn just to keep up with the Joneses, to save face, or simply to satisfy an immediate craving. I've witnessed countless people who look very successful on the outside, nice cars, big houses, designer clothes. But every time the bills arrive, they're stressed, anxious. Why? Because they're living based on an image, not on real growth. They choose immediate gratification over long-term strategy, consumption over creation. Think about the debt you're carrying. It could be credit card debt, a car loan, or even a mortgage that's beyond your means. Do you realize that every dollar you borrow from the future has to be paid back with interest? And it's not just financial interest either. It's mental interest, emotional interest, and even interest in your relationships. Debt steals your peace of mind. It makes you work harder just to pay for things you spent long ago. I remember when I was younger, I made this mistake too. I wanted to impress. I wanted to catch up to those who seemed to have achieved more than me. And I did what many people do: I borrowed money. I told myself, I'll figure it out later. But that later came, and when it did, I realized I had robbed my own future to fund my ego. It was a painful, but necessary, lesson. Since then, I've vowed never to spend money I don't have to impress people I don't even know. So, what's the solution to this trap? Here's a philosophy that truly wealthy people consistently apply. True prosperity begins when you learn to say no. Not because you can't afford it, but because you're choosing a bigger goal for your future. Imagine it this way: when you refuse to buy the latest phone just because everyone has one, you're not less than. On the contrary, you're saying yes to financial freedom, to the ability to invest in income-generating assets, to peace of mind. Truly wealthy people understand delayed gratification. They don't let short-term pleasure ruin long-term growth. They ask better questions. Can I afford this today? Isn't the most important question. The real question should be, will this purchase get me closer to the future I want? Just that small shift in mindset can save you years of financial slavery. I once met one of the wealthiest people I know. He drove a very ordinary car, lived in a modest house, and was never in a hurry to upgrade his belongings. Why? Because his wealth was hidden, not flashy. He understood the power of financial cushion. Living below his means allowed him space to invest, to grow, to create freedom. I'm not saying you have to live like a monk. Life is meant to be enjoyed. But there's a big difference between enjoying wisely and indulging recklessly. True prosperity is when you can enjoy without worry, spend without guilt, and give without fear. That only comes when you build a financial foundation strong enough to support your dream life. So, my friends, let's start practicing this new habit. Live below your means. Create that cushion. Tell yourself, just because I can, doesn't mean I should. Every time you practice restraint, you're strengthening your financial muscles. And those muscles, over time, will generate the power to carry real wealth. Resist the urge to borrow from the future. Instead, start building today. Choose financial cushion over outward appearance. Choose growth over instant gratification. Because the path to prosperity isn't paved with what you buy, but built with what you create. Hello, my amazing friends who are on a journey of discovering and creating prosperity. Now let's tackle what I call the obvious but forgotten, a trap that most people fall into, and it's precisely why they never know where their money goes. That is trap number 4, not tracking your money. Have you ever gotten in your car, put the key in the ignition, and then put on a blindfold before driving onto the highway? Sounds crazy, right? Of course, no one would do that. It's far too dangerous. But you know what? I see so many people living their financial lives in exactly that same way. They just race along at full speed, earning money, spending money, borrowing money, and just hoping everything will be okay, all while they're blindfolded, with no idea where their money is actually going. The core issue here is a critically important principle. You cannot improve what you do not measure. And if you don't know the numbers, you're not really in control. You're guessing. You're reacting. And you're very vulnerable. Because, my friends, clarity is power. When you know the numbers, you know the truth. And the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, gives you a solid foundation to build something better. When I started getting serious about my financial life years ago, one of the first things I had to do was stop saying things like, "I think I'm doing okay," or "I probably spent around this much," or "It seems like I have enough." I learned that feelings are not facts. And wealth doesn't respond to feelings, it responds to discipline, measurement, and strategy. So, I got out a notebook and started writing down every single dollar that came in and every single dollar that went out. Yes, every single one. Why? Because I realized that if I didn't tell my money where to go, it would go wherever it pleased. And money, like time, is too precious to leave it unmanaged. I treated it like a business. After all, isn't your life the most important business you'll ever run? And you know what surprised me? It wasn't the big expenses that broke me. It was the tiny leaks, and extra coffee, impulsive purchases, subscriptions I didn't even remember signing up for. When I wrote them down, I saw the truth. I wasn't short on money because of one big mistake, but because of thousands of tiny ones. But seeing those mistakes empowered me, because now I could change them. Wealthy people understand this. They treat money with respect. They know exactly where every one of their dollars is. They track, review, and adjust. Not because they're obsessed with money, but because they're committed to growth. They understand that money is a tool, and if you don't master the tool will master you. I once spoke with a man who had built several successful businesses. I asked him his secret, and he said, "I know my numbers better than anyone else. I don't guess. I don't hope. I calculate." That stuck with me. Because it's not just about having a budget, it's about having a relationship with money based on awareness, not avoidance. Perhaps tracking money sounds boring. Maybe you feel like it's limiting. But I promise you, it's the exact opposite. Tracking is freedom. It gives you clarity. It empowers you to make decisions. It tells you when to adjust, when to grow, and when to be cautious. It's not a prison, it's the way out of one. So if you're serious about building wealth, the first step isn't to earn more money. It's to know more about what you already have, what you've spent, and where every single cent is going. Because the person who doesn't track their money will always wonder where it went. But the person who tracks, they know exactly where they're headed. Alright, let's keep going and talk about a mindset trap I see so many people fall into, one that makes them feel like they're just struggling, merely existing, instead of truly thriving. That is trap number 5, short-term thinking. Do you ever feel like you're just making it through each week, each paycheck, or until the next sale? As if life is just a series of short sprints, and you constantly have to run at full speed just to keep from falling behind. What's the problem here? True wealth isn't built in sprints, it's built in marathons. And if you think like a sprinter in a marathon, you'll burn out before you're even halfway through the race. I remember when I was younger, I was one of those people. I was always trying to make a few extra bucks, just to pay the bills. My vision rarely went beyond the end of the month. Sure, I managed, but it was always just enough. I wasn't building anything. I was just patching holes in a sinking ship. It wasn't until I started learning from people who had built real wealth that I understood the difference. They weren't thinking about next weekend. They were thinking about 10 years from now. You see, a poverty mindset often seeks quick money, the kind you can grab right away. But quick money usually fades. It disappears as fast as it comes. Look at lottery winners. Statistics show that many of them end up back where they started, or even worse off. Why? Because quick money doesn't change your mindset. And if your mindset doesn't change, your circumstances never will. In contrast, wealthy people think long-term. They think in seasons, in strategies, in structures. They know that anything worth building takes time. They plant seeds, knowing they won't see a harvest tomorrow, or even next year. But they keep planting, because they're not trying to survive the week. They're designing a life. That's a completely different mindset. I remember meeting a man who spent 15 years building a business that, in its early days, barely covered the bills. But he had a long-term vision. He reinvested. He learned. He persisted through the slow years without panicking. And by his 16th year, he was a millionaire. Try asking most people to wait 16 months, and they'd probably be bored or discouraged. But that's the price of true wealth: patience and persistence. Short-term thinking demands immediate rewards. It says, if I don't see results this week, it's not working. But long-term thinking says, if I stay consistent, the results are inevitable. That's a powerful belief, because it allows you to endure setbacks, slow starts, and temporary failures without losing motivation. So how do you change this mindset? Start by asking bigger questions. Instead of asking, how can I make more money this month? Ask, what habits can I build this year that will earn me more over my lifetime? Instead of, what can I buy this weekend? Ask, what can I invest in today that will serve me 10 years from now? Just this small shift in thinking can pull you out of survival mode and put you into strategic mode. Don't be afraid to slow down if it means you're building something stronger. Don't get distracted by those who flaunt quick wins while you're laying foundations. It's the unseen work, the planning, the discipline, the sacrifices, that creates lasting wealth. A tree planted today won't give you shade tomorrow. But plant enough trees, and over time, you'll live in a forest of your own making. Think long-term. Build slowly. Grow steadily. Because the person who thinks in decades will eventually earn what others only dream of. We've broken down the traps of short-term thinking, and before that, the importance of tracking your money, diversifying income, and personal growth. Now, let's talk about a factor that affects all of these, one that sometimes we pay the least attention to. Trap number 6. Surrounding yourself with the wrong people. There's an old saying I believe holds a lot of truth. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that for a moment. The people around you, your circle, they have immense power in shaping how you think, how you act, and ultimately, the amount of wealth you create. Have you ever noticed that when you're around people who constantly complain, always blame circumstances, or always seek comfort instead of challenge, you also start to feel your energy drained? Conversations often revolve around how hard everything is, how luck isn't on our side, or how the system is biased against others. I remember in my early days on this journey, I also spent time with friends who weren't interested in growth. They preferred comfort, preferred gossiping about others rather than talking about self-improvement. I used to think that if I just worked harder, I'd get ahead. But it wasn't enough. My mindset was constantly being pulled down by the very people I surrounded myself with. Are you feeling like you're stuck in a negative mindset? Are the conversations around you making you feel discouraged, or even like giving up? Take a look at your circle. Contrast that with times when I actively sought out mentors, people who had been on the path I wanted to be on, people with bigger mindsets and wiser actions. Those relationships challenged me. They made me uncomfortable, but in a good way. They encouraged me to reach further, learn more, and see opportunities where I previously only saw obstacles. When I spent time with those people, my vision sharpened. I started thinking differently about money, about success, about what was possible. A poverty mindset often thrives in environments where gossip, complaints, and comfort zone conversations dominate. Conversely, a wealth mindset flourishes in environments where curiosity, discipline, and ambition are the norm. If you want to build wealth, you cannot afford to waste time with people who drain your energy or dim your ambition. This doesn't mean you have to abandon old friends or family, by the way. It means you have to actively seek out relationships that uplift you, people who hold you accountable, people who inspire growth. That means joining groups, attending workshops, reading books, and having conversations that expand your mind and your possibilities. Do you remember Jim Rohn's quote? He said, "You are either going to rise up or sink to the level of the people you choose." Your circle can be a ladder to climb, or a cage to keep you trapped. Choose wisely. Because the company you keep will either help you build your legacy or keep you stuck right where you are. There's a story I often tell my students. It's about a young man named Alex. Alex always dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur, but all his close friends just wanted to hang out, party, and complain about their jobs. Whenever Alex talked about his business ideas, they would laugh, calling him a dreamer or unrealistic. This held Alex back significantly. He always felt like he wasn't good enough, not smart enough. Then one day, Alex decided to join a startup course. There, he met like-minded people, who not only listened but also offered advice, encouragement, and even pointed out his mistakes constructively. In just a few months, with the support of this new circle, Alex turned his idea into reality. See? You don't have to do this alone. But you need to choose the right people to walk alongside you. So if you want to build wealth, start by building the right circle around you. Seek out people with positive energy, clear goals, and a willingness to support you. While this might sometimes require you to step out of your comfort zone, I promise you, your future depends on it. My steadfast friends on the journey to building prosperity. We've talked about the importance of choosing the right circle of friends. Now let's face a trap that, at first glance, seems like a sign of hard work, but is actually a silent enemy of progress. That is, trap number 7, confusing being busy with being productive. Do you see it? In this modern world, we seem to always be in a state of busy. Our calendars are packed with meetings, emails pile up, endless errands, and a long list of tasks that never seem to end. We run from one thing to another, feeling like we're working hard, breaking a sweat. But does all that activity actually get you closer to your financial goals? What's the problem here? I've seen it time and time again, people who are exhausted from the daily grind, but after a year, they're no richer, no wiser, and no closer to financial freedom than they were the year before. I remember when I was younger, I was like that too. I worked very hard, putting in hours every day, thinking that effort alone was enough for success. I was busy from early morning till late at night, but I didn't see the results I wanted. It wasn't until I learned to step back and evaluate whether my activities were actually producing results that the trajectory of my life changed. Friends, there's a fundamental difference between being busy and being productive. And understanding this distinction is crucial for anyone who wants to break the cycle of poverty and build sustainable wealth. A poverty mindset often confuses motion with progress. They rush from one task to another, answering every call, saying yes to every request, diving into every distraction. But none of that is tied to a clear goal or strategy. It's like paddling hard, but going in circles. Meanwhile, people with a prosperity mindset work with purpose. They focus on the few most important activities, the ones that create the biggest impact. They measure their day by results, not by hours worked. Honestly ask yourself, are the things you're doing today directly bringing you closer to financial freedom? Or are you just filling time to feel important? The answer to that question is the difference between stagnation and growth. It's about identifying the key actions that generate income, build assets, or create opportunities, and dedicating your time and energy to those things. In my own journey, this clarity came from setting clear goals and breaking them down into specific action steps. Every morning I ask myself, What's the one thing I can do today that will have the biggest financial impact? That question helps me focus on high-value tasks, instead of things that just keep me busy. It also taught me the power of saying no. No to distractions. No to activities that seem urgent but aren't important. No to endless requests that don't serve my vision. True productivity is about leverage, working smarter, not just harder. It's about directing your energy toward efforts that can multiply your results. And remember, this isn't about being perfect every day. It's about building habits that consistently prioritize progress, rather than mere activity. So, my friends, if you want to build wealth, don't just be busy. Be purposeful. Track your progress. Focus your efforts. Because the difference between busy and productive is the difference between poverty and prosperity. My brave friends on the journey to building prosperity. We've explored various subtle traps, from managing money to setting life goals. Now, let's confront a primal emotion, a deeply rooted fear in our minds, and it's one of the biggest barriers preventing you from achieving financial freedom. That is, trap number 8, fear of risk and failure. Have you ever stood before a great opportunity, maybe a potential investment, a new business idea, or even a job that requires you to step out of your comfort zone, and then, a small voice in your head whispers, "What if you fail? What if you lose everything?" What's the problem here? The fear of loss is often stronger than the desire for success. It's like an invisible chain, binding many people in a vicious cycle of hesitation and missed opportunities. You see, completely avoiding risk also means you'll completely avoid the reward. No risk, no reward? It's that simple. I've seen this happen countless times. People who are so afraid of losing what they have that they never dare to take the necessary steps to grow their wealth. They cling tightly to their money, their ideas, their lives in a narrow, comfort zone, where there's no room for explosive growth. Think about it. Every great success story you've ever heard in this country, or anywhere in the world, is tied to accepted risks. Steve Jobs was once fired from the company he co-founded. Walt Disney was rejected by banks hundreds of times. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, lived in poverty before finding a publisher. They all faced risk, faced failure. Do you think they gave up? Not at all. So, what's the solution here? Wealthy people aren't blindly rushing into danger. No. They take calculated risks. They understand that every setback, every failure isn't a dead end, but a tuition fee, paid on the path to success. When I first started, I made a lot of mistakes too. I lost money. I faced rejection. I endured criticism. But every failure taught me something invaluable. Lessons about what works, what doesn't, and how to adjust my approach. This mindset, seeing failure as a stepping stone, not a stopping point, is what separates those who build wealth from those who stay stuck. A poverty mindset asks, "What if I lose?" While a prosperity mindset asks, "What can I learn if I fail?" This small shift in mindset changes everything. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every calculated risk becomes an opportunity to achieve something. In my own life, my biggest moments of growth came after I stepped out of my comfort zone. When I chose to invest time and resources into new projects. When I took the risk of rejection by sharing my ideas publicly. When I learned from every mistake. That's when new doors opened. If I had let fear stop me, I would have missed all those opportunities. The rule is clear: no risk, no reward. The question is, are you willing to face your fears? Are you willing to pay the necessary tuition fee to gain wisdom and build wealth? The path to prosperity is paved with wisely accepted risks and humbly learned lessons. Embrace risk as a teacher, not an enemy. Because if you completely avoid it, you'll also avoid the very rewards you seek. My steadfast friends on the journey to building prosperity. We've discussed the importance of facing risks. Now, let's talk about the final, but no less crucial, trap, one that, if you don't recognize it, could leave you lost on your financial journey forever. That is, trap number 9, emotional spending and reluctance to save. Have you ever experienced this feeling? Your paycheck just landed in your account, and a sweet voice in your head whispers, I've worked so hard all month. I deserve a treat. It's time to pamper myself. And just like that, a fancy meal, a new gadget, an unplanned trip, or simply things you fancy online. The money just flies away, and by the time you think about saving, there's nothing left. What's the core problem here? It's the habit of spending based on emotion, not on reason or strategy. We often use spending to fill an emotional void, to soothe ourselves after a tiring day, or simply to feel successful or happy instantly. But then, you wake up to an illusion of success, a bag full of unnecessary items, but an empty bank account. And then you wonder, why does wealth remain such a distant dream? I fell into this trap many years ago. I used to reward myself even before I actually earned a surplus. That's the classic poor person's trap, living beyond your means under the guise of self-reward. But I learned a costly lesson. If you reward yourself first, you'll have nothing left to reward yourself with. Worse, you'll be stuck in a spiral of debt, stress, and limitation. This isn't how wealthy people play the financial game. They do the opposite. They don't save what's left after spending, they spend what's left after they've saved. Their mindset is completely different. Before buying anything, they ask themselves, does this item serve my goals? Does it align with my values? Will this purchase multiply or subtract? That's the kind of clear thinking that builds fortunes. I understand that feeling. When you're tired, when life is tough, that little voice in your head keeps whispering, you deserve this. But let me challenge that voice. You deserve freedom more than fleeting pleasure. You deserve compound interest more than accumulating regrets. You deserve to invest in assets that will one day pay for everything you want, without guilt or pressure. Let me share a simple, practical truth that changed my life. Saving isn't just a financial decision, it's a character decision. The act of saving says, I value my future more than my impulse desires. Every time you save $1, you're casting a vote for your long-term self. And those votes will pile up. I don't care if it's $5 a week or $500 a week. Start where you are. The size doesn't matter, but the discipline does. I often say, the emotional spender will eventually work for the disciplined saver. That's not philosophy, that's economics. The saver will own the rental house, while the spender will rent it. The saver funds the business, the spender works for it. One builds assets, the other buys distractions. Same income, different mindsets. And you know what's great about this truth? It's completely within your control. You don't need a raise to start. You don't need to wait until January. You just need to decide. Decide that from now on, your money will serve your vision, not your emotions. Decide that you will build wealth quietly, while others chase flashy things loudly. Because at the end of the road, it's not about how much you earned, but how much you kept and how much you made it grow. So discipline yourself now, so you don't regret it later. Make saving automatic. Spend with purpose. And remember, you either master money, or money will forever master you. Remember, life can throw unexpected challenges our way: illness, job loss, market downturns, or sudden expenses. Those who live paycheck to paycheck, without a financial cushion, will be forced to struggle, panic, and sometimes even give up when trouble hits. This lack of preparation turns setbacks into disasters. Conversely, prosperous people build cushions, both in their minds and in their finances. They understand that life isn't always smooth sailing. The key isn't to avoid the storms, but to be ready when they come. That readiness is built through planning, discipline, and foresight. In my own life, there have been times when unforeseen expenses could have derailed my progress if I hadn't prepared. By creating an emergency fund, setting aside reserves, and maintaining flexibility, I've been able to absorb shocks without losing momentum. That's not luck, that's deliberate preparation. Preparing for emergencies isn't just about having money in the bank. It's also a mindset, knowing that setbacks are temporary, manageable, and part of the journey. When the unexpected happens, the prosperous person doesn't panic or despair. Instead, they calmly assess the situation, adjust their plan if necessary, and keep moving forward. Without this cushion, every setback feels catastrophic. A car repair becomes a crisis. A missed paycheck becomes desperation. But with preparation, these challenges are just potholes in the road, manageable and surmountable. So, if you want to shift from scarcity to prosperity, start by building your cushion. Create a financial buffer that can help you weather tough times. Train your mind to expect setbacks and to respond with calm confidence. This cushion won't just protect your assets, it will empower you to keep moving forward when others give up. Remember, prosperity isn't about never facing problems. It's about having the strength and resources to overcome them. Prepare today, and you'll be ready for tomorrow. My dear friends, as we close this deep conversation, always engrave this: true transformation doesn't begin with grand gestures, but with small, consistent steps, taken every single day. The journey from scarcity to prosperity is paved by the very decisions you make right now. It's the discipline to save before you spend. It's the courage to live within your means. It's the wisdom to surround yourself with people who uplift you. It's the foresight to build multiple income streams. It's the unwavering commitment to personal growth. It's the bravery to take calculated risks. It's the clarity in your goals. It's the patience with long-term thinking. And it's the honesty of tracking your money. These aren't just habits. They are commitments to your own future. You have the power to break the chains of a scarcity mindset. It begins by owning your story but refusing to let the past dictate the future. It begins with clarity, knowing exactly where you want to go, and taking focused action towards that goal. It begins with discipline, showing up even when motivation fades, sticking to the plan, and keeping promises to yourself. No one else will build your legacy for you. No one else will manage your money with the necessary care, or invest your time with purpose and precision. The path to wealth is not paved with luck, but with deliberate choices that honor your dreams over your distractions. So, here's what I want you to do next. Write down your financial goals. Be specific, clear, and measurable. Honestly review your spending and saving habits. Identify one area where you can cut back and redirect that money toward building your future. Choose a new skill or area of knowledge that will increase your value and commit to learning it consistently. And most importantly, surround yourself with people who inspire you to grow and hold you accountable. The greatest gift you can give yourself is to start today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Because the moment you procrastinate, you lose time, and time is the most precious currency you have. Remember, wealth isn't just about money. It's about freedom, peace of mind, and the ability to create a meaningful life. Your journey begins now, with a single decision, a single step, and a commitment to never settle for less than your true potential. Take that step. Build your legacy. Your future awaits. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. See you in our next conversations.